And we're live. Hey, everybody. It's great to be back with you again. And today we're going to talk about rabbit. But I think that was Bugs Bunny. He used to, or maybe it was the other character. When I was a kid, I'd watch these cartoons and he'd say, oh, that's right. We're hunting rabbit or wabbit with a W. So today
And
we're
there
going to
was
be talking
somewhere
about,
there it was, what's up, Doc?
yeah, yep. But similar Hanna-Barbera. It's all good. Hey, for those of you who are of a certain generation, like mine, Gen X, then you understand. But we're going to be talking about rabbits as it relates to dog food and cat food. And we have uh, don't let her fool you. She looks like she's in her early 20s. She is an adult and she is experienced with this. And Ian, do you have any comments as we go on?
Oh, have a look at her website when we're finished. Absolutely brilliant. A wealth of knowledge. Yeah, what else can I say? I think we just need to meet this young lady or this really old lady who looks young.
She's neither. She's neither. But here she is. Ladies and gentlemen, Ashley Luke from Hair Today. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, guys.
Hi,
Thank you
Ashley.
so much for that kind introduction.
You are neither old nor young, but you're just right. You're just the right age to be raising rabbits.
That's called timeless.
Right.
Yes.
We Ian and I both we're old enough to know we should never be getting into the age thing with people, but here we are. It makes us laugh. Whatever.
Well, Rob, you have to know, and I think you do know, and Ashley should know, I'm the most politically incorrect animal on this earth. So you just have to put up with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I can relate to that, yes.
I think a lot of our guests are pretty politically incorrect. That's the way we like it. Anyway, Ashley, it's really nice to have you on. We're going to be talking about rabbits. And
Wabbits.
Wabbits. I personally feed my dogs rabbit, and I think it's a super cool protein. And I have this feeling. I'm going to say something very non-scientific, but I think it's very appropriate and accurate. So I have this theory that if you look at all the dogs that are living their best, longest lives, they're living on farms or ranches. Okay. They're living with big access to big, diverse terrain and a diverse biome.
Yep.
Right. And Dr. B agrees with me. What we attempt to do here at our company, Gussie's Gut, and I'll even suggest that raw food companies and even like grass-fed ranches, what we're all trying to do is mimic nature for our purposes. So with Gussie's Gut, what we're doing is, and I'm getting to a point here that brings in rabbits, Ashley, I promise, is we're trying to mimic nature and we're trying to bring the ranch, those of us who know, we're trying to bring the ranch to us. And I don't live on a ranch, but I also don't live in a super sterile city in a high-rise condominium or anything. It doesn't matter either way. What you're trying to do is bring the world, the biome, the nature to your dog. And a lot of our customers are trying to do that through our product and through really great diets. But I just want to say that if you look at this expanse of these ranches and these farms and all of this, well, one of the most common animals that is on these ranches and farms are rabbits. And so I don't have to overthink the issue a lot. What I think of is that's a good protein for my dog. If this is the life I want, or I dream or wish for them, this is a really good protein. And then what happens after that is you just have to look for a really great supplier. So anyway, what do you think about that rant, that soapbox I just got on?
Yeah, it's a great theory and one I refer to very often, especially when I'm talking to our customers or potential customers. I am so thankful that you guys are on the line. I am always a student, so I might be taking notes myself here because I always want to continue to learn. But in terms of rabbits with canines or mice with cats on a farm, with ferrets, ferrets and their species appropriate, those are a few of the animals that we feed. Just looking at that and feeding what our creator intended is where I get the basis of a lot of my conversations with our customers. And
Oh, she froze. Hey there, this is Rob Ryan. I just want to say how much we enjoy making this content for you here. And if you are enjoying it, would you like our video down below? And would you subscribe to our YouTube channel? It sure does help us get discovered by more people like you who need information like this. And also, down below in our description, the top link is to our trial pack. We hope you'll order one for your dog so your dog can have fermented superfoods that give them nutrition like they can't find anywhere else. Hard to get nutrients that are easily absorbed. Thank you very much. Now back to the show. You're back.
My headset turned off for some reason. I'm not sure why, but can you hear me okay?
You'll hear you great.
Yes, now we can.
Okay, very good. So I was just saying that, having that perspective of, the ancestral diet and how our animals would eat in the wild is the foundation to where my starting place usually is. Yeah.
Great.
Speaking of foundations, Ashley, it just occurred to me as we were speaking that in my very early days, I want you to picture me at 22, a gormless youth, so much younger than you are now, out let wild in the bush for the first time, because I was a city boy, and I was living deep in the bush, armed with a 22 rifle, if you know what a 22 rifle is.
I sure do.
Yeah, and never having had that before, but now I had it, and we had no money, or very little, so I would go out hunting every day. And what did we shoot? Wabbits. We were shooting wabbits for our dogs and for ourselves and for our cat.
For your dogs.
Well, we're Candy, and then it's so far back. Candy was my first dog, and I remember that. But then we bought, and I cannot think of her name. Isn't that terrible? Another little dog. It's probably in the front of Give Your Dog a Bone.
Yep.
But she was a blue merle, and she was a beautiful little dog. And there's a whole story there, but I won't go into it. But we were feeding them rabbits and butcher's scraps. And this was the basis of their diet. Oh, quite apart from the fact that they grazed on sheep poo, cow poo, kangaroo poo, and wabbit poo. But yes, this is where I started actually with wabbits.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I could go back to how we started as Hare Today, Gone Tomorrow. So hare as in rabbits, of course, HARE. And how did we start? We started because our dog got cancer. And my mom started researching why would a dog get cancer, and just diving into those reasons of why and species appropriate food, and looking at the classification of animals and their teeth and their claws and how they really should be fed for max nutrition and to avoid those potential diseases and things of that nature is where we started.
So often, isn't it, that people start off learning this through disease? I started off by learning just by doing it, thinking it was normal, which it was and is, but then later on being told that I should really feed them properly with processed pet food, as we had been taught, and then observing their decline in health. And then the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, there's still some growth. Yes, I know there's so much to learn there. And I looked up a quote before our conversation today from Benjamin Franklin, and it said, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn." So as we can learn with our animals and, understand their nutrition, we can actually gain a lot of insight for ourselves as well.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Great quote.
Yeah, that's what I think that they're here for with us, is to teach us a lot of things. But do you eat your own rabbit, or is it you just raise for animal consumption? How do you work your farm?
Yeah, so currently we have 17 head of cattle. We no longer raise rabbits just because of our stage of life. I have two young boys, a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old, and my husband. So we are very, very busy running our small business. Our small business has 9 employees with myself and my husband included. We ship out around 300 boxes a week. And we manufacture all of our products as well. So we're very busy. And so farming has kind of taken a side step for us at this stage of life. We did start off as a rabbit farm, thus our name. My mom raised rabbits, mice, goats, cattle, you name it, she tried it. KVs, guinea pig. So we've done it all. But currently we're not raising rabbits at this time.
Cool. So so you work with other farms in the area, like in somewhere in Pennsylvania?
Absolutely. So we're very rural. Our small school houses about 300 to 400 kids in our high school. So very, very small. We live on a 52-acre farm, and we have other farms like our own that surround us. So I have partnership breeder profiles that each of my farmers completes for quality, humane raising, all of those necessities for good manufacturing, and starting with quality products. And then I do home visits to visit the farms and make sure that everyone is informed on whether it's rabbit hemorrhaging disease. So that is very prevalent, or can be. So just making sure that breeders are informed on things that I know about that they might not, and just keeping a good eye on focusing on the humane raising of those animals.
Cool. Well, tell us about that disease. When people, everything has some potential downsides to it. I mean, meat, we know about, a lot of us know about chicken. Some of us know about like pork and trichinosis, depending on, especially wild pork, but could be domestic pork. There's some, downsides to salmon and certain fish with parasites. So tell me what you recommend with the what would I say, the potential issues that could come up with rabbits.
Yeah, so with rabbits in particular, so that rabbit hemorrhaging disease, you can actually see it on the liver. So when we remove the intestines and stomach, we can actually see spots on the liver. So it's very easy to notice. And you can also see blood clotting and things of that nature with the hemorrhaging. So there are things that we look out for when we're handling any raw material.
Mm.
So this, I'm not really familiar with this disease, at least not under that name. So is this a problem just for the rabbit, or is it transmissible to people and or dogs and cats?
Not transmissible, excuse me, to people or animals that I am aware of. Other rabbits, and it's mostly wild rabbits. And that's to the extent that I am aware.
Okay, all right, that's fine. So is there a problem if a dog or a cat eats a rabbit that has this problem?
Not that I'm aware of, but out of the abundance of caution, we ensure that any animal called to slaughter is in good health. So if there is any indication that it would veer from that, we would take steps to not use that in production.
Okay, I have another question, actually. There's been a lot of written up about rabbits and lacking in taurine. Have you come across that at all?
I have not come across that, and especially with heart included in our grind, I've actually seen those at very good levels.
Excellent. I'm so pleased to hear that, because I had a strong feeling that a lot of that research was very biased in favor of not feeding raw, and it was concerning, and it didn't align with my own experience with rabbits, where we never had that problem. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I always look at taurine as the strongest muscles in the body. So when I'm talking to a feline, like a cat owner, I am stressing the importance of taurine, as that's essential in the diet because they can't manufacture it. It has to be fed. So looking at, thighs. So if a rabbit was caged in a small pen, maybe I could see some studies showing a decline of taurine because they're not moving those muscles a ton. I'm just speculating based off of knowing that strong muscles, the heart has the largest amount of taurine. Also, like I said, thighs, that also has a large amount of taurine. So I would just speculate whether it was a caged up rabbit compared to one that has more room and is humanely raised as well.
Okay, so and that would be another indication not to feed sick rabbits, simply because they haven't been moving around much, and so they're not going to have that beautiful nutrient profile that you would want them to, even if they're not going to transmit the particular disease that they have.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. So what about Tulum? Is that something that we worry about?
Not one that's on my radar. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Well, I know it's like with wild rabbits, so that's probably why it's not on your radar. But the average consumer, if they've been in an area like me, or the mountains where there's some the CDC warns you of Tulum, and it's like it infects animals and people, and it's in rabbits and I think some other types of animals. So maybe that's not an issue for you guys because of the way you raise them.
Right. So we don't use any wild animals.
Mm-hmm. They're
Rob, I'm not
raised.
aware of that being a problem in Australia.
Oh, really?
Not
Okay.
aware of it at all.
Yeah.
It's not something that's come on my radar ever.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it can also come from tick and deer flies and, infected animals, contaminated drinking water, all the usual stuff, that nasty stuff comes from. But so that's good. So the good news is that I just learned something because I buy my rabbit from a trusted supplier where I buy some other really high quality meat. And I've never asked that of her. But I just know it from being out in the mountains and stuff. And sometimes you hear about it.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing it.
Yeah, no, that's really great. Because, it's like that, this is how consumers, and I'm one of them. This is how we are. You stamp a certain thing on an animal because you've heard it or you've gotten scared by it. And then you just think like all that species like could have that thing, and so here, I'm so glad I got to ask you that. Now I don't have to worry about that. So is there anything else, like certain things where you should freeze it or cook it or anything else? Is there any safety steps for rabbit, or it's completely fine, just right after slaughter, you could start feeding it?
Yeah, so I, as a good manufacturer, we follow specific policies and procedures for good handling and safe handling of raw materials. We're a little bit different from other American companies that offer pet food. We are not nutritionally balanced, for example. Our products are either prey model or they're a combination of meat, bone, or organ or organ. So we have a wide variety. As I mentioned, 26 different proteins. But with that, I don't have any extra precautionary steps for feeding rabbit in particular. I know you mentioned fish and that being one, and pork, for example, if there were any parasites, not saying that there are any, but if there were a problem with parasites, freezing that in a commercial freezer would absolutely eliminate that. Now, in terms of pathogens, those would not be eliminated in a freezer. So that's where quality sourcing, quality materials is very, very important.
Yeah.
When I was very early on in that 22-year-old hunting rabbits for the family, the old farmers used to say, "Well, always cut around the tail and take that out." And I'm assuming they were talking about anal glands in rabbits. Do you do that?
So, partially. So when the intestines are removed, those that would be pulled out with.
Right. Okay. This was just something I never even thought about it again till now. And of course, in the wild, dogs would not bother about that; they'd just get stuck into it. But anyway, this is going back to my very early days. You're certainly taking me back there. Actually, it's quite interesting.
It is, and
These days
through
we don't have access where I am to rabbit. If we did, it would be exceedingly expensive from a butcher as a rare commodity. But in the past, it has been very simple to obtain for me, but not anymore. So how do you raise your rabbits? Tell me about that, or how are they raised? It's not you anymore, I understand that, but how do people raise rabbits these days for commercial purposes? What are they fed? How are they housed? Can you tell me about that? I'm really fascinated.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is something that I wanted to make sure consumers were informed on as well. So I actually created a page specifically on our website about our local farms and supporting local farms that you can actually see pictures from my home visits, my farm visits with our local breeders. So typically, my raisers are a good variety of people. I try to talk all of my friends into raising rabbits. So that's the first thing, because it seems like we can never have enough. The
Do your
demand
friends run when they see you coming?
some of them, but when they know that I'm writing them a check for their future, they weigh that challenge.
She's a good saleswoman too. I'm writing
Obviously,
you a
yes.
check for your future.
Oh,
Okay,
thank
keep
you.
going. Actually, I interrupted your flow.
That's okay. I'll tell you, it is a challenge. And when I see, whole rabbits come into my facility, live rabbits come into my facility, I told my husband just this past Friday that I wanted to keep a couple and start a pen in my office. So, but he's like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I was like, "Yes, I want to keep them all." But I am very aware of the life that they're giving to our animals. I very often pray over them, thank them for their lives that they're providing for our animals, our domesticated carnivores. So, but going back to talking my friends into raising rabbits for me. So this is, any of my kids' friends, which are between 15 and 5, maybe some older, some younger, that are taking very good care of those rabbits. They're bringing them out into pens to let them run in the grass when they're able to, but typically do live in a hutch style pen. I would say a good size dimensionally would probably be like 3 by 5 on the larger end for a rabbit pen to house those. Now, some of them are going to be smaller if they're a larger rabbit breeder because they're trying to be more profitable. I do have specific requirements in terms of using nesting boards, so they're not on metal pens, for example. Those are a couple of things that I look out for in making sure that they have enough room. And then getting fresh air and light is extremely important for the health of the animal as well. In terms of food, typically they're fed a rabbit pellet, hay, and minimal vegetables, fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
And why minimal?
Because it can lead to diarrhea.
Okay. Well, that wouldn't be good.
So basically, you are trying to mimic as natural a diet of the rabbit as possible.
Right. Absolutely.
Because typically, I think was it Brer Rabbit that had one of the rabbit used to go and eat carrots, I think, typically in the cartoon.
Oh no, that's Bugs Bunny.
That was Bugs Bunny. I knew it was, well, that's a bunny, it was Bugs.
Yep.
But what Ashley's saying is, because if Bugs was to have too much carrot, he would be running out to the bathroom quite frequently.
Yes.
That's funny. So what do you think, because you mentioned prey model, what do you think about, how do you think about fur, or do we call rabbit fur, or
Yes.
yeah, right. So what do you think about that in the diet, and how do you think about it?
So I start my theories based off of observation. So feeding my animals a whole prey animal, for example, is where that begins. That's the best way that I've learned from my animals on exactly what they need. So feeding my dog, my dogs are different. My silver lab, she'll eat everything as quickly as she can. She's very energetic and food driven. Whereas Tucker, he is more of a slow, enjoy his food type of guy. So Remy will eat a whole rabbit in its entirety, where Tucker may leave some of that behind. And looking at a cat in particular and feeding a whole mouse, many times the back end, kind of like Dr. B was saying, is left behind. And so in that observation, whenever I'm recommending a whole carcass ground product, I always like to encourage people to feed that with a variety of dressed protein without, meaning dressed as without fur or feathers. So feeding a balance of the dressed protein with the fur included can be really beneficial. And like I said, that's mimicking how they would eat a whole prey.
Well done.
Yep.
So do you supply whole rabbits with fur on?
We do.
Okay, but with the intestines removed.
So our whole prey rabbits are whole with the intestines included. It's a completely whole rabbit.
Okay.
Whereas our whole prey grind rabbit would be the stomach and intestines removed.
Is that because of laws, like just the law, the grind?
So our grind, there is not a law that pertains to that. It's to minimize likelihood of E. coli, for example.
Yeah, okay.
Sure.
Cool. Just for essentially like convenience more than compliance. It's like it's more convenient not to have an E. coli outbreak in your abattoir or whatever you call that.
Right, in our manufacturing. And then also when an animal is fed a whole prey, they have the option to eat and consume what they want to consume, where they don't have that option in a ground product, right? So
Yeah.
a whole rabbit, even with the stomach and intestines included, that animal can choose not to eat that. And many times that happens, not always,
Yeah.
like my example with Remy, who likes to eat everything.
Yeah.
Typical Labrador.
They select. Yeah, they do. They do select.
What's your other breed, out of interest?
He's
The one that
yeah,
he's
he's
what?
a golden doodle, but I swear he is a golden retriever. I will DNA test him one day.
Oh, my daughter has a oh, it's a cross, a poodle.
Labradoodle.
No, it's not a Labrador.
No.
Oh, can't even think of the breed. Doesn't matter. But the principal breed is the one that it looks like, even though there's a lot of poodle in there. But anyway, my ancient brain has now gone into freeze mode. But
Yeah.
I think yes, it just depends which way the genes align within that combination.
So, Ashley, when you do like a whole, I'm curious about this whole. I've never done whole. I've only done like organ and meat, and no, I haven't done any fur ever. Just haven't. I just don't think it's available easily. Like, I haven't made an effort to give my dogs fur ever. But like, if you put a whole rabbit, obviously thawed out, in front of a dog, like how do dogs get used to, like, how do dogs know what to do with that thing? Do they know? Like, my dogs are really, like, they've always been raised around animals, and they just ignore them, you know. So they have no, they're screwed if they just got lost in the wilderness. They are screwed because they just think like, oh, just ignore it. It's a squirrel, it's a deer, or whatever. But it's good for me. It's good because I don't, they're not going to go running off chasing them. But anyway, so how do you do that? Like, I'm just curious about this.
So how do you start them on a whole prey?
Yeah.
With dogs, a little bit of tough love can go a long way. I would never recommend that for felines because they will simply starve themselves. Dogs, on the other hand, you can use a little bit of tough love in our experience. So that's a starting place. Getting them in front of another dog, that competitive nature that is eating that already, is also helpful. And it
So, but
does
by tough love, just sorry to interject, does tough love mean don't feed them for a day?
half a day,
Oh,
right?
that's
Mm-hmm.
not, Ashley, that's not tough love. I fast my dogs once a week.
Okay.
And let me tell you who it's tough on. Okay. Let me
Mm-hmm.
give you one guess.
It is. It's heartbreaking.
It's just, it's not even heartbreaking. It's just tough. But, I've had one dog who's a beautiful yellow lab. I'm sorry, just get a quick dive. Anytime I can remember him, he's gone now. I take that opportunity. His name was Owen. He was as sweet as a white lab, sweet as any dog could be. Oh, she disconnected. I'll go on with my story, and when she comes on, when I didn't fast him, I probably told you the story, Dr. B. When I didn't fast, or when I fasted him, I swear to you, he never showed a sign that he knew it. I think he was thinking, oh, good, Ashley's back. Let me put her back on. The wheel is turning on the connection. Let's see. This is what happens when you interview somebody on a rural farm. This can happen.
Yeah, connections are not that great.
Yeah. Which is kind of attractive, actually, because, it's kind of nice to get away from all the wireless signals. Well, anyway, so while the wheel is turning, we're trying to connect with Ashley. I'll finish. So I swear to you, all my other dogs, all my two other black labs were like, dude, like, hello, tapping their wristwatch, like, let's go. Owen was like, Rob wouldn't not have fed me. I'm sure he's fed me. I just probably forgot. It's fine. He just.
Well, you share something with Roz that she's unable to fast anything. Me included.
Well, I at my core, I am more interested in health and longevity, and so to me, it's that's the reason. And to give their organs a rest and give their colon a rest, give all the whole body a rest. I don't hear you or see you, Ashley, in case you can hear us. We see that you're on here. We'll pause the recording and wait for Ashley to get on. And she's back.
Awesome.
Okay. So Ashley, I was just giving a silly story about my dog, Owen.
Yes.
You missed it. You missed it, but you're going to have to, now you have to listen to the recording of this on our YouTube channel to hear it. It was
I will.
great.
And my youngest son's name is Owen, so I will absolutely re-listen to that.
Oh, Owen's the greatest name. What my sister, another quick story. My sister wanted to have a kid around that time when I got my dog, and I named him Owen. She's like, I wanted to name if I had a boy, I wanted to name him Owen. Now I can't. I'm like, of course you can. What's the issue? You know, it's a great name.
Aww, it is.
Yep. So anyway, we were talking about fasting, and so tough love, you know, bless your heart, was you maybe don't feed your dog for a half a day or a day, which I think is very nice of you. And that encourages them. And then if that doesn't work, competition with another dog is another
Absolutely.
strategy you were saying, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now I would suggest doing a whole premetal not in your kitchen unless you have a linoleum floor. And I mean, if you're doing two dogs competing, that seems like a little bit of a mess, but I would imagine outside is probably ideal.
Yes, good point. Yes, I do feed those outside.
Yes. When Dr. B and I got together and he was consulting me on feeding my dog, I would buy Thanksgiving turkeys, like full on whole turkeys and gizzards. And I was just, you know, trying to get used to the idea. And so I bought a cleaver for the first time in my life, a big cleaver, and I'm hacking them up. And so I'd give them to my dog. My first dog, his name's Buddy. And I give them to him. Luckily, I had a linoleum floor in the kitchen, and I would block off the kitchen. And he would drag these turkey parts all over, which of course is not great. Like, you can't be walking on a turkey, you know, smeared floor. You got to really clean it. So I was like, this can't be the way you do it. There's got to be an easier way. So anyway, I hacked them up into smaller pieces and it was fine.
Well,
Good.
I had a neighbour come in the other day, and the dog had diarrhea. And of course, it was on kibble. And he said, I've just come for some veterinary advice. So about 3 hours later, he walked out with some chicken wings, some of our mix, and 2 books.
Yep.
But I went wrong the other day, and I said, well, how's it all going? Oh, good. He said, cleared up immediately. He said, but it's a real problem feeding him chicken wings around the house. I said, you do have to confine them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
let him out in the backyard. Oh, right.
Yep.
Exactly right. And cats are the same way. They like to carry their whole prey with them and hide it, and get in corners.
Yeah. Mice and birds. It's like, ew, they bring them in, and some of the cats show you, and they're so proud of it. You know,
our cat, the one on the farm that I can particularly think of, she would bring them home stunned but still moving, and she would torture them for 2 or 3 hours before finally going gulp.
Oh my
I
gosh.
used to watch her think, oh God, this is terrible. But it was nature at work.
Boy, oh boy,
Yes.
that's crazy. Well, you know, I mean, we're having a little bit of fun. I think there are some people that will, you know, could watch this and think, well, you know, why? Because you said something I thought was pretty beautiful, Ashley, which was, you know, I thank them for my feeding my dogs, nourishing my dogs. You know, the people who, I have some really good friends that don't think that this is, you know, a really great use of a life. I'll just put words in their mouth, you know, or they act like this is not humane for animals to feed humans or dogs. And some of them aren't even vegetarians or vegans. They're like less meat folks, and I have my views, and I think that the world is, and I know that Dr. B does too. How do you? I'll give my opinion. You're the guest. I want to ask you, like, how do you think of nourishment from animal to animal? How do you think of that?
I think it's fundamental through their ancestral diet, and we can see that in the classification of how we differentiate animals from their kingdom. We talked about their teeth and their claws, and it shows kind of what they're meant to eat.
Yeah.
And it's a hard line to walk because we're looking at creating optimal health for our animals,
Yeah.
but we also want to be aware of other animals and giving them the best life we can possible. And what does that look like? It may look different for each animal, and we may not agree on that. And I think that's where we might get into a place of being politically incorrect in some regards and in many areas. And I think that butchering in itself has become an area for labor that is not strongly continuing. So I know that, like, for example, our local butcher has a hard time finding, staff, because this whole idea of slaughter is so far away from what we see in conventional way of eating highly processed food that is literally killing us from the inside.
Yeah.
And there's this breakdown of understanding how we need to feed our bodies, how our animals need to feed their bodies. And we can see scientifically how that breaks down through disease. And if that doesn't show us, if you're not willing to look at that and look from a scientific perspective, then I don't think you're willing to learn.
Well, beautifully said, Ashley. I think Rob began this that we've been sort of laughing and joking a bit, but that is what you've said is so beautifully said. And there's such a serious side to this that, yes, it may be to some people, and certainly not the beautiful world we'd like to think it is, but the truth is that is what our animals need, and that's what we need. We need to understand this. This is a serious matter. If we're going to be healthy, we actually have to eat, as you said, as our Creator intended. No question about it. And that's the serious side of this whole issue. We can laugh and joke, and I can make a joke about a cat torturing a mouse, but I mean, what the cat was actually doing was softening it up, literally, to eat it, ready for eating. And it was horrible from our perspective, and from the prey's perspective. And we'd probably like to see the cat have eaten it straight away, and she probably could. But that's not really the point. The point is we really do need to feed ourselves and our animals with food that is biologically appropriate, that for which we have been designed, of which food we need. And that's the point of what you're doing. And I think the fact that you are doing it, the people who in your area who you service are extremely lucky to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that so eloquently.
This isn't his first rodeo.
Season pro.
Yeah. Well,
I can't ride, by the way, Rob.
That's right. That's right. But you can talk. You can talk, cowboy.
Yeah.
The real crime, sin, is the factory farming system and the lives while they're alive. The lives that those animals live is horrifying. I mean, I saw a video with a pork processing plant that was multiple stories high.
That's the worst one, Rob. Pork. That is the worst.
Yeah, these animals live in these. Well, yeah, because they can live on anything, and so they live.
They put sows, and they're just
Oh,
chained.
oh, horrible. Now, contrast to that, I was just in Georgia at White Oak Pastures and on the ground with the animals and living this lovely, low stress, beautiful, wonderful, flowing, big pastoral and big spaces, including the rabbits. I made sure I looked at the rabbits and the fowl, and they even went so far as to hire Dr. Temple Grandin, to design the pen that they go through right before they get processed. So their life, while it's being lived, is just beautiful. It's amazing. It's very inspiring to go to. And I think we all forget, like, these animals die horrible. Like rabbits, we'll just take rabbits for example. Hawks, eagles, you know, cats. I mean, like wild cats, to be sure, certainly feral and domesticated also. But I mean, dogs. That's not a real pretty way to live. You're getting chased and then you're getting killed probably pretty slowly too. So, we could get in a huge philosophy about, and I wasn't even planning on taking the conversation this direction, but I think it's really important because of something that you said I thought was so beautiful is, this is a fact of our life. And there's a lot of things about life. The older I get, I realize, boy, this wasn't the fairy tale I was promised in the books.
Yeah.
This is, this is living, this is real life. But anyway, so real quick, so is there any benefit to rabbit meat that is different than, and maybe can we just say even better or advantageous compared to like cow, beef or lamb or chicken or, other stuff? Because it's all brown meat.
Right. Yeah, I would say it's novel, right? So we hear that word sometimes with animals with allergies. So they're not typically accustomed to getting that protein. So it can be very beneficial for animals with allergies, for example. So that's one huge benefit of rabbit.
Cool.
I think
Just means
that's actually a very good one, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And novel means it's basically unique, or it's not Dr. B, what would you say? I can't get it off the top.
The animal actually hasn't eaten it before, so its body hasn't had a chance to develop an immune reaction to it. So it's new to the body, and therefore the body accepts it as a novel protein, that it's not going to say, oh, I've seen you before, I want to react against you in a terrible way and create havoc within the body, which is an autoimmune or an immune problem or an allergic type problem. So not an autoimmune, but allergic type problem. So for those dogs who have allergies, it's a good one to go to for sure.
Yeah.
To see just if there is some protein that doesn't cause the problem.
Well, I'm not a fan of feeding any protein all the time, ever. And I think, I don't care how good it is, I think rotating it is great. And rabbit is an incredible thing to add to your diet. If you don't have it, it's just incredible. It also, I mean, imagine just the idea of like rotating your proteins and the different profiles of nutrients that you're getting in all these different animals. It's pretty spectacular. I mean, hopefully you're feeding well-raised, grass-fed when it's necessary, or, pasture raised.
Can I just pop in there for a moment?
Please.
Rob, the variety you're talking about is important. And even with animals with allergies, you may discover a protein to which they're not allergic. But if you've got them on that for a while, you can then often introduce other proteins very briefly for a day or two, then back to the one that is safe, and rotate them around that way. And quite often you can get away with that. They do not react. It takes a while for them to decide to react again to the one that they were reacting to. So that way you can keep up what you're saying, which is variety, which is so important.
Yeah, so important. Well, cool. So Ashley, you also on your website, you took over an archive just tell us a little bit about that, will you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So the Feline Nutrition Archive is now archived on our website. That came from the Feline Nutrition Foundation. Years and years of knowledge that started around the time that my mom started the business in the early 2000s. So there's a wealth of information for felines in particular, from veterinarians to bloggers to you name it, they're there with credible information on how to feed felines in particular. So they actually were planning on retiring and reached out to me. And so Margaret and her husband were looking for a safe place to archive all of the wealth of knowledge that they had collected over almost 2 decades. And so we were very grateful that they came to us, because we hope that our website lives for a very long time, being a second generation business owner. Myself, I hope that my children will one day want to carry on the business, because it's so very important. What we do, I try to share with them countless emails and customer relations on how we're actually affecting the nutrition of animals. And it starts with credible information and having our pet parents be informed, because there's a lot of noise out there, and sometimes that's hard to, thumb through. So having a credible place for where to go for information is so very important, and we're so glad to have that archive on our website.
Wonderful.
Well done.
It speaks highly of you. Somebody trusts you to hold all their information.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've had a couple people ask if we were going to add to or change, and I really hope to keep it as it is, original. If I have blogs myself, I'll put those on my own site. So we really want to hold it, original to how we received it. And then if we need to build upon any blogs or articles, we'll do that on our own site. But very important to keep it original. Absolutely.
Great.
So yeah.
That's great. Well, it's been such a pleasure to connect with you and meet you and learn about rabbits and feeding rabbits to our animals. Thank you for being with us, Ashley.
Thank you. If I may ask you a couple questions about your company as well. So Gussie,
Sure. Interview us.
Thank you. So I was like super intrigued. I have had fermentation on the back of my radar for some time. Microbiome are huge hot topics. My products are very simplistic based for a very specific reason. But I love companies like yours that are adding supplements to help create a healthy microbiome. So please tell my customers a little bit about your product as well, so I can share this with them.
Oh, well, gee, let's see. So, well, I got to formulate it with this gent. Am I pointing it the right direction? I can't tell anymore. Okay. All right. See, it shows up different for me. So we like to think we do a simple product too. So what we did is we take very traditional approach to fermentation. We ferment 19 superfoods that we collectively call them superfoods. So they're also ingredients that most people don't feed, put in their dog's raw bowl or whole prey bowl often. A little goes a long way. And the reason is that what we did is we ferment them all together for 2 weeks. We freeze dry them to protect the integrity of that product, but then it dries out, it freeze dries, and it turns into a powder that we just add a tiny bit of cheese to, just so that the dogs that don't get it, that are really extra finicky, they'll want it also. So they'll have the benefits of fermentation. And you just put it on any food, or literally you could put the powder in a whole prey, inside a whole prey, model. And it's literally like a teaspoon per 20 pounds of your dog's body weight. So if you have a 40-pound dog, all you need is 2 teaspoons. And So all these superfoods, they're more digestible, more bioavailable. And so if you think of it this way, actually like putting, you name the vegetables, putting them in a blender, giving them to your dog. Great. That's great. It's a better way than the whole vegetable. The next best way from even a puree is fermentation, because it's kind of like it pre-digests the cellulose and the vegetables, and it brings these nutrients out. And then on top of that, it creates out of nowhere, creates nutrients, certain fatty acids, vitamin K, certain vitamins will come out of this spontaneous like combustion that we call fermentation. So it's a better absorption and a better, you're getting more out of each ingredient than you would in its raw form. Certainly its cooked form, but even its raw form. And that's because of the fermentation, the way we ferment.
Yeah, so it's called Gussie's Gut. So you created that with the goal of healing your dog's gut. I'm making assumptions here. Fill me in.
Yeah. So that's definitely what happened. So he had this gut injury because he got in the trash one day, and what we didn't know for about a week was he swallowed a half and half bottle of a big half and half container that I had. I like half and half. And so he bit it, and it wasn't until 7 days later where he wasn't eating. And the last, I think it was 3 days, he wasn't drinking. I was like, I sonogrammed him. We couldn't figure it out. Nobody could find it. He pooped out the bottle cap. So it went all through his entire digestive out the end. He let out a yelp, which I'll never forget. It was kind of hysterical. But all of a sudden it was just like, "Bow!" And then he popped out this bottle cap, and it was slightly bent because and it was chewed around the edges. So he had like gotten at it, and then he bent it. And then that immediately he drank and wanted to eat immediately. But his stool was crazy weird colors. It looked really horrible. And I was just kind of like, I'm not squeamish at looking at poop at all, but I was at this poop and it worried me. So I put him on some probiotics, but I started then to research a better version of lab grown probiotics, which is fermented foods. And then I started getting very, very elaborate with it. And then I reached out to Dr. Billinghurst and I said, what do you think? And what did you say to that, Dr. B?
I think I said yes. In short.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So do you think particularly people with animals that have IBD, I'm just throwing around like irritable bowel, like issues with their gut at the base is perfect for Gussie's Gut? Or do you see that more as an everyday topper?
Well, we see this in every day, but yes, the answer is yes. It's
Yes.
certainly, we don't think of our product, and you'll never hear us talking about our product as a therapeutic, as a treatment. We prefer to under-promise and over-deliver. So when people come to us and they talk about this, but we get this all the time. Will this help with my dog's itching? We say, well, if it's a nutrient deficiency, it may. But other than that, we can't promise you anything. You can just try it and see. So what we don't believe is that we believe every dog is incredibly unique. Their genetics and epigenetics, the way their parents ate, their vaccine history, their medication history, the food that they ate their whole life makes them who they are today. And you can't make anything. You can't make anything and say that will help your dog in this situation because you don't know the dog or the cat. So what we believe is we make something that is incredibly solid as a nutrient dense supplement. It is 100% whole foods. So people think of us as a food, but we are classified like technically and legally we're a supplement because your dog won't survive just on Gussie's Gut alone. You need meat and you need the other stuff. So it is a supplement. But we believe that all this talk that we have about, probiotics, gut health probiotics. The business of the probiotic industry has, we've gone from being anti-germ. Remember when all the soaps were, antibacterial and everything was antibacterial, to going, hey, wait, that might be wrong. Maybe we shouldn't kill everything in sight because we're killing the good stuff. Hey, wait, maybe we shouldn't give antibiotics at the drop of a hat for everything. To now going the other end of, the pendulum has swung to the other side, which is now we cure every single, from diarrhea to vomiting to, your dog's breath to everything with a probiotic. The problem with that, Ashley, is that when you make probiotics, you make them in a factory, in a lab, in these massive stainless steel vats. And so whatever they are, 25,000 liters, whatever, you're making them, you're duplicating them off of usually milk protein. Well, dogs, we'll just talk dogs, have literally thousands of species with subspecies of bacteria that are good pathogens, really good. Sorry, they're not pathogens, they're good bacteria, microbes. You can't make those in a lab. A lot of them are super sensitive, and you can get them from the dirt, breathing the air, being in water, being out in the environment on a farm, eating poop of other animals, etc. And you don't need a lot of them. So what we focus our product on is creating a healthy gut terrain. And that's, to us, that is way more important than like chasing a certain number of bacteria of a certain species, when you actually have thousands of them that create the diversity. The science is pretty much, I think, coming around to the fact that if you want a healthy microbiome, you need diversity, number one. And number two, you need a good home for the good bacteria, and that's gut terrain. That's the lining of your stomach. And, if you don't have that, there's no reason to be talking about it. You're ultimately not going to be in any great, profound shape when it comes to your microbiome health. So hopefully I've answered it. I could obviously, as you could see, I could go for a whole hour on this topic alone. I'm really pleased and happy you asked. But hopefully I've answered the question.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
I just pop in there and say that by creating a fermented food that doesn't rely on specific strains of microbes, but simply takes the native bacteria, the microbes that are in the food, and allowing them to ferment the food, this is absolutely in accord with evolutionary norms. It's what evolution is all about. And it's just part of a whole. If people can combine that with a raw food diet, then they're presenting, and this is actually what I said. You asked me, Rob, what I said at the beginning. I said, this actually completes something that we didn't really have in what I was asking people to do. Now they can do it. They can actually do that final bit, because nobody wants to feed poop to their dog, actual poop.
Yeah.
We know that dogs eat all sorts of rotten and revolting foods. So this is kind of like, in a sense, in many ways, substituting for that. And it fills the final piece in the jigsaw puzzle when you're putting this whole evolutionary diet together. And it's doing it in a way, again, that is natural, because all you're doing is taking food, actual food, allowing it to ferment with the bacteria that are there. So they're seasonal, they're located wherever the food was grown, and so on. So this is really in accord with normal evolutionary conditions, and that's what we want. And that's the idea, is that when you do what the body is designed to or feed what the body is designed to take in, then you are going to create that normality in terms of the terrain, and you're going to introduce the type of bugs, microbiome, bacteria, whatever, that the body expects to get, and then it feeds on that food. And you've got, and this is, a roundabout way of explaining how feeding according to evolutionary norms just simply produces health, which is what we want. And sometimes we don't really even understand exactly how it all works, and we certainly don't, but we attempt to. We attempt to explain it, but we don't. As I say to people, you don't have to know anything about nutrition. You just have to feed these foods, and suddenly,
Yeah.
hey, we've got a healthy dog.
My friend Julianne Lee from Adored Beast, we came out with a magazine. She vanished. We came out with a magazine called Dog Microbiome Magazine that she did an article in it, and it was about how we know as little about the microbiome as we do about the cosmos. And it's really interesting to see how little we do, how much we know, but also how little we know. And so, for she's coming up, I think, hopefully. So for Ashley, for your great customers out there, your loyal rabbit customers, I would say this. What we try to do at Gussie's Gut is mimic the gut contents of a crazy healthy plant-based superfood eating animal. Those don't exist. But if you could have a rabbit that ate our 19 superfoods and put it in their gut, and then the dog or cat ate that rabbit's guts, you have Gussie's Gut. You just have it in a freeze-dried, convenient way to put it on your food. And we make all of ours very simply with Redmond's real salt. And because it's a really high quality, clean, plastic free, and high nutrient high mineral salt. So unfortunately, we're going to have to end this call because it's been 1 hour and 6 minutes. But thank you, Ashley. I'm sorry you're disconnected, but thank you for being with us. And thank you for asking that question. That's very kind of you.
Yes. And you can watch this later, actually, to get the full story from Rob, which was just explained so beautifully.
Right. And we'll send you a transcript, Ashley. We'll send you a transcript.
And we loved having you on. It was beautiful.
Yeah, we absolutely did love it. And have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. And thank you, Dr. B. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.